Hello, everyone, and thank you, SINCON organizers, for inviting me to speak. We appreciate our partnership with the SINCON team. It's my pleasure to discuss trends in the Asia-Pacific region with respect to cyber resilience and capacity building efforts. But if you would indulge me, I'd like to start by talking about something I enjoy very much and which I suspect you too would enjoy, which is food. I also enjoy cooking as a result of my appreciation for good food, and I relish the process of combining raw ingredients, spices, condiments to create a wholesome, tasty dish, and experimenting with different combinations of spices and culinary techniques in subsequent iterations. Of course, fortunately for me, I live in the Asia Pacific, which is, of course, well, home to a diversity of cultures and cuisines, and this is no less thanks to the eclectic mix of spices available in the region. Not sure if you're aware that more than half of the spices in the world originated from Asia Pacific. In fact, the Malabar coast in India was a hub of the spice trade from Southeast Asia to Europe in the not too distant past. Unsurprisingly, APAC bears witness to a variety of well-loved flavors, including the sweet gulab jamun from India, the spicy and sometimes also numbing mala from China, and the umami flavored kimchi from Korea. I've spoken a lot about food, and in case you're wondering, where's the relevance to my topic? Well, just like the unique spice mix in each country, I believe that the cybersecurity landscape in no two countries is the same. We face similar broad trends, from growing digital dependency, rising cyber attacks, and a talent gap in cybersecurity. But the devil is in the details. So if you were to take a closer look, countries across the region vary by key threat factors, vulnerabilities, cybersecurity education levels, capabilities, and capacities. Take the example of ransomware. We found that a large majority of ransomware attacks in Indonesia targeted the palm production industry. And in Thailand, hotels, state enterprises, and beverage companies are the worst hit. While in Singapore, the primary targets are those in the engineering and aerospace industries. So this naturally calls for different priorities and strategies in each of these countries to best protect the most vulnerable as well as critical sectors. My sharing today will therefore focus on cyber capacity building. And the reason is capacity building, in my opinion, is within our control. It is foundational to cybersecurity. It is perhaps the most urgent area for countries to invest in today for the benefit of tomorrow as well, especially given the long runway and forward planning that's much required to develop capacity. That really doesn't happen overnight. But before I do so, let's first talk about the difference between capability and capacity. Capability is a measure of skill. For instance, does a country have the requisite talent to perform digital forensics, malware analysis, reverse engineering, and incident response? Capacity, on the other hand, is a measure of resources for each capabilities. Do companies in critical sectors have security operation centers, also known as SOCs? And how many people in the SOCs are equipped to protect, to detect, and to respond to cybersecurity incidents? How much budget is allocated to develop and to activate a company emergency response team or CERT when the need does arise? So both concepts are intertwined, but there is a fine distinction. I will talk a little bit about the state of cybersecurity capacity building in APAC. Much like how the same spices are used in multiple ways across cuisines in Asia Pacific, countries also have unique needs and challenges around developing cyber capacity. And cybersecurity education and capacity building begin with a recognition of this diversity. Looking at APAC, we can broadly categorize the long list of countries into three main groups according to the levels of readiness to deal with cyber attacks. First, of course, the advanced countries who are leaders in the cybersecurity field, who have clear strategies in place already and are already acting on them. The second group would be the intermediate countries who have identified cyber attacks as an area they need to really look into and have attempted to make some inroads. The third group would be the initial countries who have just begun paying attention to this area for various reasons, possibly including more pressing domestic needs or issues such as the current pandemic that's been ongoing, that's taking their attention away from looking into cybersecurity issues any sooner. So these categories are certainly not an attempt to downplay the efforts or efficacy of any country. In fact, far from it. On the contrary, it helps us to better tailor solutions to meet the specific needs of a country based on its current level of cybersecurity readiness. We also draw from the best practices of countries that are more advanced in their cybersecurity journeys. One example I'll raise is Singapore, a country that's been putting a lot of effort into boosting its national cybersecurity capacity. Last year, in 2020, it launched the Safer Cyberspace Master Plan with the aim to raise the general level of cybersecurity in Singapore. And one aspect of the plan involves strengthening cyber attack detection and analysis capabilities on a national scale, including around AI and IoT systems. There are also plans to support enterprises to do so through self-help resources and an automated software as a service solution. Moving down under, the Australia Cybersecurity Strategy 2020 identified data security as a national priority, with an investment of 1.67 billion Australian dollars allocated over a period of, 10 years. The government's three-pronged strategy of building a stronger digital ecosystem, growing a skilled workforce, and protecting Australians shows that they're taking cybersecurity very seriously. At Kaspersky, a key focus is to enable countries in the intermediate category who have identified and attempted inroads on certain aspects of cybersecurity to move up to the advanced group. And of course, this includes identifying and talking about the gaps in infrastructure or education to develop a clear strategy and milestone to remedy those gaps. Both India and Indonesia, for instance, remain on the cusp of releasing their national cybersecurity strategies, highlighting the importance of the issue, particularly with the recent spike in cyber attacks and data leaks, including a number of high-profile incidents. It also speaks to the challenges of integrating nationwide considerations and efforts into a cohesive, into one cohesive plan to get stakeholders buy-in and manage the complications arising from the pandemic. In parallel to releasing its strategy, India is making headway in leveling up the cybersecurity skills of thousands of government officials and companies in critical sectors. It's also initiated cybersecurity investments and established agreements outside ASEAN. Japan, Israel, and Bahrain, for example, have agreed to boost cooperation in capacity building, research and development, and the protection of critical information infrastructure. Similarly, Indonesia decided this year to centralize the coordination of all cybersecurity affairs within the National Cyber and Crypto Agency, also known as BSSN. And amongst others, BSSN is looking to develop more capacity building initiatives to boost cybersecurity talent. Kaspersky has been supporting several governments within the Asia Pacific region in these efforts through our cyber capacity building program. And against the backdrop of the pandemic and geopolitics, government organizations and critical sectors will continue to be natural targets for a whole array of cyber attacks, be it for espionage, for money, for, or a political agenda. It is therefore pivotal for countries to build capacity, starting with their own cybersecurity strategies. I will now speak a little bit on cooperation across countries and industry, because one way to build capacity and to have a sound cybersecurity strategy is really through cooperation between countries and the industry to facilitate knowledge sharing and capacity building. This matters because our economies are highly integrated, such that, or maybe intertwined, such that a cyber attack in one location can have a regional or even global impact on another country or another region. With interconnected cyber chains, with interconnected supply chains, trade routes, and information sharing arrangements, it is in the strategic interest of advanced countries and global companies to support the cyber capacity development of others. In fact, these conversations around cybersecurity are already taking place, particularly in ASEAN. For instance, Interpol's ASEAN Cyber Capacity Development Program has gathered countries across the region to exchange information around identifying and obtaining digital evidence. They also run tabletop exercises on multi-jurisdictional challenges. The intent really is to foster regional cooperation against cybercrime by acquainting the relevant teams early on in the process. Through mechanisms such as the annual ASEAN-Japan Cybersecurity Policy Meeting first held in 2009, Tokyo has gradually broadened its engagement with Southeast Asian states, and these partnerships span a range of areas from mutual notification for incidents, joint industry, government, academic collaboration, construction of new facilities such as the ASEAN-Japan Cybersecurity Capacity Building Center in Thailand, to US-Japan training workshops on areas like industrial control systems. These conversations driven by Asian multilateral institutions are a good start. It would also be useful to expand such tie-ups to the broader Asia-Pacific region. But developing platforms and programs alone, while important, is not enough. The real challenge is facilitating meaningful partnership and collaboration through these channels. A key ingredient is trust. With different frameworks around data protection and cross-border exchange between countries, trust and mutual understanding are essential in these times to find common ground for the sharing of sensitive data, threat intelligence, timely reports, and updates confidently. This warrants a far deeper conversation around structures to engender trust across countries and organizations. The cybersecurity landscape is evolving rapidly, and so are the strategies that I've shared above. It is thus important for policies and responses to be agile. And I believe that one way to do so is by learning from the tried and tested best practices of advanced countries and the industry, alongside close monitoring of developments. For instance, ransomware, which has been creeping into APAC in recent years, first started its spree across Europe and North America over the past decade. There are lessons to be learned from how countries dealt with such attacks, even as we wrap our minds around the increased sophistication and complexities of these threats. Of course, regional cooperation is but one of the many ways to build cyber capacity. It would take more than a day if I went on about the ways to increase cyber awareness, develop the cyber talent pipeline, and to engage the wider community to be cyber safe. But I hope that the case studies I just shared provide a few ideas on where to start. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today. It's a pity I cannot take you on a tour of the cybersecurity best practices of each and every country in APAC, or get you to taste the eclectic food and spices across the region. But I do look forward to the day coming soon. Thank you.